Claire Cree, and I'm so excited to be here today with Vivian Nunez. Vivian is the founder of Too Damn Young, a resource and community for anyone who's experienced a major loss. Vivian's experience helped her learn how to marry storytelling and social good. Vivian received her BBA from Baruch College, and she is a digital strategist consultant based in NYC. You can follow her Twitter and Instagram at Viv Nunez or at Too Damn Young, and I will include those links for you in the description. Hi Vivian, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! So I wanted to start by asking you to share your journey starting Too Damn Young and tell us all about it.
For sure. Thank you again for giving me the platform to have this discussion. Really excited.
Yeah.
And the story of Too Damn Young really started, I guess the beginning started when I was 10. When I was 10, I lost my mom, and I was raised by my grandma from then till about 21. And then last winter, in March, my grandmother passed away. And at that point, I was in this place where obviously it was such a devastating loss for me because she was like my second mom. But it was also this place where I had gone through something similar before. So I understood the logistics of what came next. So I knew that there was a funeral that came next and what kind of like the immediate next steps were. And while that was all happening, I kept on having this thought in the back of my head of what is a teenager or a young adult doing who's never gone through this before? Like, how lonely must they feel?
Yeah.
I had, because I lost my mom when I was 10, in those 12 years almost, I had the opportunity to meet other people, one or two other people who had gone through it. So for me, while my grandmother was passing away, I was leaning on them because they understood it from a point of view where my other friends just couldn't. And so I wanted to create a space where I could give that to someone else, the opportunity to not feel alone and to kind of feel that they relate to other people's stories in ways that aren't necessarily in the mainstream right now. And so that kind of was the idea that started Too Damn Young. I started growing it or developing it probably end of March, beginning of April. And then it launched officially the day after I graduated, May 28th.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, and it's really growing quickly.
Yeah, for sure. We're almost close to a year in, which is a little bit insane.
Yeah.
In that time, it's grown from just being me writing on the website to having a few other people write on it. I have people who are regular contributors, others who just come in and share their story once, and that's enough for them, which is awesome and fine.
Yeah.
It's also grown in terms of more people are talking about it. My friends are putting the word out there. Friends of friends are putting the word out there. And it kind of really has grown organically, which has been really awesome to see.
Yeah. So if we have viewers who would like to share a story with you, how can they do that?
So they can definitely reach out to me. Either Twitter, Instagram is also a good way. Facebook, we're on Facebook. And my email for Too Damn Young is vivian@toodamnyoung.com, and that's TOO, damnyoung.com.
Okay, good. That's great. And for viewers who maybe are experiencing loss, I would think, obviously, loss of a parent, as you said, loss of a family member, but also it's really devastating when we lose friends. And even when we have major change that we weren't looking to have happen in our lives, all across the board, what are some resources? What do you offer on Too Damn Young? And what do you suggest for people who find themselves in this position and are kind of like, like you said, just lonely and don't know what to do? What would be your tips?
Right. So a major thing on Too Damn Young is it started with my story, and I lost what I say both of my moms, my mom and my grandma. But that's not the only kind of loss that is depicted on the website. I have people who have lost like their best friends in high school. So it kind of, there's this wide spectrum of different versions of loss. And even if the same, like I have an older brother, and him and I both lost my mom, but I lost a very different mom at 10 that he lost at 21. Right. So there's always this unique perspective of who you lost, even if it's the same human being. It's never the same person for each person. So that is one major thing that across the board we try to really push on Too Damn Young, the idea that everyone's experience with loss is unique and valid, and the way that they're living through it is especially their own. There's no right way and there's no wrong way. As long as you're not inflicting harm on yourself or anyone else, the way you grieve is the way you grieve.
Mm-hmm.
And the resources that we have, it really is going off of the idea of writing is really a really big use to put the emotions into something. We also we link back to other websites, right? We have a book review section, or we have books where you can kind of feel related to. One of the big ones is All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven, which we just reviewed on the website, and it's a YA book that is amazing. The protagonist is a girl who has lost her sister, and that's where the story begins. And it's something that any teenager or young adult can pick up and really feel like they are feeling understood. And then we have also other extensions in the entire grief circle. There's one organization called the Dinner Party that really promotes the idea of having dinner with people who have lost someone and kind of opening that conversation of grief in and of itself and making it more acceptable to have.
Yeah. It's not a, trendy, sexy topic, so we don't really hear a lot about it day to day, but yet we experience it usually multiple times in our lives.
Yeah, that's definitely a really, really good point, and something that I try to always push when I'm talking about Too Damn Young. It's not a sexy topic, and because it isn't, a lot of people don't talk about it, and that's a huge disservice to any teenager or young adult that's going through it. Especially a teenager and young adult, because they're trying to find themselves who they are, and if you can't find yourself in the context of this huge event that's happened to your life, it's really hard to figure out where you go next. And you're right, a lot of people go through this. The statistic is that 1 in 7 Americans will experience a loss of a parent or a sibling by the time they're 20. So the way I kind of visualize that is almost in a classroom, in a high school classroom or a college classroom, there are at least like 2 or 3 people in there who have lost someone, but they don't know each other because the conversation isn't one that you can actually have freely without feeling like you're going to be judged or put in this place where you're just a victim.
Right. I can see that, and I remember in middle school, a girl who lived down the street lost her mom, and it was hard to know what to say and what to do. I would love to see more education happening around that, and maybe it's just listening, being present, and having compassion, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's a really big thing there is the website Too Damn Young and any other resources for anyone who's grieving. Obviously it caters to this certain demographic that has lost someone, but this is a conversation everyone should have, like you're saying, because at the end of the day, whether I'm going through it or I have a friend who's going through it, someone is going through it, and you should kind of know conversation. One of the articles that we just published on the website is by one of my contributors, Bethany Melson, and she just wrote about that, all the things that someone wants to say to you but doesn't because they're sticking to the formalities and the niceties of things that should be said. Yeah. And at the end of the day, anything that I want or that anyone else is going through this wants is a certain amount of dignity and honesty comes to it. To get there, you have to be able to say the words, to say death and to say grief and to not make it something that feels like it's an illness that I should be ashamed of, but something that I'm presently living through.
Yeah. And I think to feel like even your friends who may not have been through that yet can be there for you. They want to be there for you. I'm sure it just goes so far just to feel not alone in it.
For sure. A lot of my friends just sat with me for a while after that happened. Yeah. And that was huge. Just having someone, knowing that there's a shoulder there to cry on. I may not cry on it, but at least I know it's there. And that's really all you really need at that moment anyways. Because like you said, no one really has the magical words to fix this. It can't be fixed. So it's a matter of just being present in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I think as a friend that can be a challenge because of course we want to fix it, but we can't. I think I'm sure people who are in romantic relationships encounter that too. I saw you have an article, I just shared it on Twitter about when do you tell somebody that you're going on, the first few dates with about your loss. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure it's a touchy subject, and it's sad that you have to consider that, that you couldn't just, in
Say it,
day to
right?
day conversation, this is unfortunately kind of a natural part of life. Here's what happened, and then we all have the skill to be present to that.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're approaching more on Teen Young because it is really hard and it's something that is difficult and it's awkward. And a lot of it also comes from the idea that the other person may see this as something really heavy and dark when it isn't, right? At the end of the day, yes, there's a huge component of it that is super sad, but living through this has also made you a stronger person. And
Yeah.
that is something that you have to be proud of in a way because
Yeah.
you've lived through this. So it's awkward to be in this position where you're sitting in front of someone and you don't know if it's going to be a mood killer or not. To say, well, by the way, and it's something simple too, right? It's especially if you've lost a parent. It's like, oh, so where do your parents live? And you're like, well, actually,
Yeah.
And then that place it's super awkward. They don't know what to say next, and that I think really does come from the fact that no one else is talking about it. It wouldn't be as awkward if this was more a part of the regular conversation.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, and I wonder if it almost is easier to have something that you're ready to say if it's awkward. Like, I know that might be a lot to take in, so don't worry about it. I've lived with it for the last 10 months or
Yeah.
however long. Because it's new to them, but not to you.
Exactly. One of those things that we always push out there on Too Damn Young is the idea that it's not uncomfortable for me to say the words. It's comfortable for you to hear them.
Yeah.
And that's what has to change a little bit. One of my writers also wrote this post, the same one who wrote the one we just published, saying like it's like an open letter to her future boyfriend. Just saying like, losing my mom isn't a reason you shouldn't date me. And she kind of goes into detail about why this is so important. And it's true, like everything she says is so relatable. It was like one of the most shared articles we've had because so many people just connect with it on that really basic level of, yes, this has happened to me, but this shouldn't be a point against me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I think that's really powerful, and we need it in our conversation. Yeah.
For sure.
So I'm curious. I think it's so different for everyone. I have some friends who have experienced loss, and that was a transformational event for them in a variety of ways, whether internally or even with a concept of the spiritual, not so much religious. Do you see trends in that, or do you have any, I don't know, just anything you notice or you experienced around that?
I don't like to speak to the general public because everyone really does experience it differently and is affected by their change differently. I personally have definitely been affected by it. The way I view time is something that changed drastically after I lost my mom, and even more drastically so when I lost my grandma. The idea of we have this limited amount of time, and what are we going to do with it, and how are we going to make it something that we're proud of at the end of the day? She was always super proud of the way that she lived her life and the way she raised her family. And so that's something I really hold dear. The concept of family is something, family and friends, and actually spending time where you're actually present with them, not on your phone the whole time, is definitely something that has changed after I lost her. And it goes down to like also just the spiritual for me personally. That's something that's definitely been impacted the way I view the world. What I put more priority on is definitely something that had I not gone through what I went through, I may not be where I am now.
Right. My husband has a saying about life that sometimes the challenges in life kind of burnish your soul like a pearl and really make it have a special luster, which is cool, but sometimes I think I wish we didn't have to go through that, but there is some truth to it.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely those moments where when I was growing up, a lot of it was, oh gosh, like, why did this have to happen to me?
Yeah.
Right? And then there comes a point where you have to not think of the cards being stacked against you, but more the idea of, like, this is the hand you were dealt. So now what are you going to do with it? And so in a lot of ways, I chose to kind of take the more positive route to it, and turn it into something more positive. But not to be said that this wasn't especially hard. Like, it was so incredibly hard to get there. And it's still hard every day. So that really goes back to this blog series I have on Tudemium called Grief 365. And it kind of journals every day for the last year, starting in January, where I'm literally writing how hard it is even after my grandmother just had her first year anniversary. And even after that year where people kind of assume that you're all better from what, it's not something to be better from, but where you're all better, that suddenly it stops hurting. But it doesn't. It just hurts in different ways.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really amazing, Vivian, that you have chosen to share your journey and create a forum for young women experiencing this. I think it's awesome, and I'm excited and honored to get to feature you.
Thank you. No, I'm really excited to be on here and be able to talk about it, have a real conversation on the topic.
Yeah. So do you have any self-love practices or self-care practices that have helped you through this journey, or just day to day to begin with?
Yeah, for sure. I've always been a real writer. So there are things that I write for Teen I'm Young, but there are also things that I just write in a personal journal. So I try every day, or at least every other day, to kind of sit down with myself for at least like 15-30 minutes and just kind of write down where I am now, where I want to be, and just things that have happened. Sometimes it's literally just like, today I had a breakfast and this is what I had. Some days are like, I'm exploring faith. It's all really subjective to how I'm living. But that's something that's really helped me connect with the present moment, in ways that losing someone and going through life in general really wraps you up on everything else that's the future and all these other things that you can't really live in the present. I'm into taking walks, which is awesome in New York during the spring and the summer and the fall, but in the winter is very difficult to do because there are piles of snow. But for the most part, walks really help. It kind of just clears your mind.
Definitely. And just getting outside in nature, even if it's in the city, just being in the fresh air, I think it's so healing. And it's funny, I was just writing in my journal about that this morning. How important it is to do that. And sometimes, we've worked all day and it's nighttime and we're like, oh, maybe I'll just watch a show or read. No, wait a minute. First, I've got to get outside.
It's super important. For sure. Just taking a walk, I've always loved, because there's in New York that everyone knows, like the more commuted places, but there are like the hidden gems in New York that are super quiet and they have like the nice hidden parks, and those are like the sections I love to hang out in because they're just a little bit calmer.
I bet. That's like your own little zen spot.
Exactly.
In the middle of the city. Is Baruch College in New York?
Yeah. So it's on downtown, more by 23rd Street, so all the way downtown.
Oh, good. So you really are a city girl.
Yeah. For sure. I was born and raised here.
Okay. Awesome. So, what do you think you would say is your greatest joy in life so far?
I think the friends that I've made.
Yeah.
And like my family, but also my friends, because my friends are a little bit more by choice. And so the friends that I made, the network I've surrounded myself with, like the sense of community I have, that's definitely my greatest joy.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much love there and acceptance there that is something that you really, really need day to day.
I agree. And as someone who's quite a few years ahead of you, keep those friends from now close, because what a treasure, to have friends that you later have been friends with 20 years or more.
Yeah.
It's like your family.
For sure.
It's rare, and it's increasingly rare.
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's something to really put effort into because it's awesome.
Definitely, and I love those long friendships. I have a friend who I've been friends with since we were in kindergarten, and we're both college graduates, so we've been friends for like a good 17 years.
Yeah, so much of your
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my best friend and I have been friends since 6th grade. So
Wow.
it's been a
So it's
long
the same, yeah, it's a
hmm
long time. And
Yeah,
those are friendships, so it's like you come home to them in a lot of
you do.
ways.
It's
Hmm.
like having a sister or, a
Yeah.
brother if it's a guy. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So when has I like the warm fuzzy questions. You'll notice.
Yeah.
Um, when has an act of kindness really touched your heart in your life?
Um, I grew up in New York City, like I said, and I went to Catholic high school,
Mm.
an all-girls school that really pushed service as one of the main core values. So we had to volunteer like once a week during my whole senior year.
Yeah.
And so I think the idea of like kindness and service for others has been something that's deeply ingrained in me.
Mm-hmm.
But a specific act, like, so I've experienced many, which I'm really, really thankful for.
Yeah.
But I guess a specific act ties back to Too Damn Young. Just the idea of like others spreading the word of it is something that really touches my heart because it helps the next person who may be dealing with it and may be feeling lonely not feel as lonely anymore. And that's something that's really, really powerful for me. Just the idea of like being able to help another person and being able to be a part of something bigger than myself and kind of pass that idea along that other people can also be like a part of something bigger than themselves.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And it's really your personal bent towards service is just so apparent in the choices you're making as far as
Thank you.
having Too Damn Young and reaching out to others. I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, if our viewers want to find more of you, where can they find you?
For sure. So they can find us at toodamyoung.com, and that's TOO damnyoung.com. They can follow us too on Twitter and Instagram, and that's the number 2, Damn Young. They can follow me on Viv Nunez, both on Instagram and on Twitter, and really just like engage. That's the main thing for us.
Good.
Follow along with our mission.
Yeah, I hope everybody will. I know I will be. Anything else you want to share with our viewers? Any parting words?
Just in general, I think this conversation was really awesome because it opened up the conversation around grief and loss. And I think if everyone can just take that out into the world and make it a little bit more of a general conversation to have, then someone who they may not know is going through this may feel like more comfortable to open up and actually have someone to lean on instead of just feeling so lonely in it.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I hope everybody will head on over and check out Vivian's Too Damn Young blog and all of her offerings. And obviously, if you know anybody who can use these resources, please spread the word because here it is available for free. And that's an amazing service. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Amy Lee Mercree. Remember to live joy, be kind, and love unconditionally, today and every day. Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you.